Welcome, listeners, to our very first audio story. Hope you have your flashlights and a blanket to cuddle as you listen to today's story titled Welcome Back, Home Boris. Boris! Boris! Susan screamed, the wind whistling around her with every turn she made. She held on tight to her flashlight as she fell to the ground. In pitch darkness, it felt like the ground was curving up around her heart pounding in her chest. She quickly tried to turn on the flashlight. She must have hit it hard when she fell. Suddenly, the company of crickets went silent. The ruffling of the bushes made her jump. Boris? Boris, is that you? The ruffle became louder and louder. She began to hit the flashlight harder. It was coming towards her, and she knew it wasn't Boris. Finally, the flashlight came on, but she could feel it behind her. The urge to turn around was really strong. The rustling of the alarm felt like it was stirring a war in Susan's brain as she jammed it, but she was already awake. She had the same dream again for the past 3 days, and like before, she couldn't remember what happened after the flashlight came back on or why she had to turn around. She gathered the sweat on her forehead with her index fingers. It had been 3 years. 3 years since they lost Boris in their cottage home. Now, they would be going back there for holiday after 3 years. The announcement from her parents led to the dreams. But they weren't just dreams. It really happened. 3 years ago, they all traveled there. Her parents, her younger sister, and her little brother. Her siblings were both playing outside with Boris, and no one knew when they all ran off. Shortly after, they both ran back home without Boris, both looking really scared. Something was following them. They said Boris began acting strange as he kept on barking at something they couldn't see. Something that made every hair on their body stand. Something that seemed to control the wind. And then he was gone, disappearing into the tall grasses. They all set out to look for him, but Susan was later carried by her parents, who found her on the ground, unconscious, looking very pale. The security searched for Boris for days, but could not find him. And finally, they gave up. The cottage still looked as she remembered. She had sat on the kitchen counter, holding tightly on the glass of water in her hands. 3 years ago, her butt could barely reach the edges of the counter. Even the ceiling looked as though if she jumped high enough, she could touch it. She was actually about to do it, but stopped when the lights began to fluctuate, making a sound like bees were trying to escape from it. Finally, the power gave up and there was total darkness. Shit! And I don't even have my phone with me. Just great, Susan said. Carefully, she placed the glass on the table, and taking one step at a time, she tried to make her way to the living room, hugging herself tightly. The weather had become chillier all of a sudden. Susan! She froze completely, looking round to find where the sound was coming from. Susan! The darkness felt like a thick blanket wrapping her up. She knew that feeling. She had felt it before. It was coming closer. Hot sweat dripping down her back despite the cold. "Susan!" The voice sounded angry. Susan ran for the door this time, almost knocking down her mom, who came in with a flashlight. "Now where are you running to?" Even the flashlight Susan's mom shone directly at her didn't affect her eyes. "Dear, are you alright?" "It's just the dog. Your father is working on it." Her mom handed one of the flashlights to her. "And please, Susan, return that glass back to its rack." Well, her father couldn't fix the problem. They would have to sleep without any power. That night, Susan couldn't even sleep. The feeling still lingered. Fear crawling round her body, boring through her skin, eating up her mind. It felt like she was partly dreaming and partly awake. This time, it came with barking, and it was beginning to get louder and louder. Except, it wasn't just a feeling. That thing was right inside the house. "Liam!" Her mother's scream sent millions of needle-like pain in Susan's stomach. By the time Susan mustered courage to take the sheets she covered herself up with, her sister was already up and was making her way to the door. Susan didn't just get up. She ran for her life to catch up with her sister. Her hands held tightly to her flashlight that she could feel every marking on it. At least, her entire family had the same look on their faces as she did. Boris was back. Boris, their dog, after 3 years, still wearing his tag and the red big band her brother Toby put on him. The next few days, everything was back to normal for Susan. There was no eerie feeling. Nothing was crawling round her. The whispers were gone, and she hadn't had the dream again. One night, after they all had dinner, Susan went to do the dishes, but she kept on battling with a honeybee. Its buzzing sound was driving her crazy. She tried to wave it off, but the bee became even more annoying. Carefully, she calculated, watched it fly around her till it got comfortable. Swiftly, she snapped her palms shut, trapping it, opened the window with her left hand, and let it out. But it didn't come without a price. The bee stung her. At least it was worth it, she consoled herself, while using a spoon to scratch her palm. But the buzzing sound wasn't gone. She looked around in anger, but it wasn't any bee. Cold sensations started to crawl up her back, and the light bulb began to fluctuate. Susan had to press her itchy palm hard on her pounding chest. Her heart felt like it was going to erupt. Quietly, she took one careful backward step at a time, away from the sink and towards the door. Whatever was happening, that thing was there with her. The feeling was stronger now, but she didn't let that deter her from making her way for the door. She was almost there when something blocked her path. Unless it wasn't something, it was someone. She felt nauseated, her legs feeling numb as she tried to turn around. But whatever it was didn't give her the chance, as it turned her around with full force, causing her to hit the floor hard. With every last strength in her body, Susan let out a terrifying scream. Few seconds later, her whole family gathered around her. Susan coiled up on the floor, muttering the same words. "I saw it! I saw it! I saw it!" "So what?" Susan's mom said, as Susan held tightly to her mom. The monster!" Susan managed to get the words out of her glittering teeth. Her mom tilted her head, her eyes narrowed. It was just there. He was standing in front of me." "What?" Her mom looked at her dad, folded her lips, her eyebrows raised before letting out a deep breath. "Susan, look, I know you've been having a bad time and didn't want to come to this place. You don't believe me. You guys don't believe me. Mom! Dad! I saw it. I saw it, and I've seen it before. Honey, look, we're here now, and everything's okay, alright?" her father said as her mom helped her up. But they were wrong. Now she remembered the other part of her dream. That night she had seen it. The night Boris went missing. She couldn't tell if it was male or female. It was a wrinkled, ugly-looking creature with sharp, long claws. The key! Give me the key! It was trying to take the key Susan held tightly to when Boris came out of nowhere and dragged it into the bush, and they both disappeared. Minutes later, she sat with her family in the living room watching a TV series, the fear still lingering. They were watching a TV series, and the episode was about crazy people who saw things that weren't real or weren't there. Her family could feel the tension in the room, not entirely from the movie, but because the movie felt like it was mocking her. "Well, who wants to watch something else? Or should we play a game instead?" her mother finally said. Toby squeezed Susan's hand, looked at her and whispered, "Don't worry, Susan. I believe you." He smiled at her but looked terrified. "It's okay, Toby. Just forget it. I'm just a little stressed, that's all." "No!" He tightened his grip. "I believe you because I saw it too, that same night." "Wait, what?" Susan's eyes widened. Suddenly, a sound like they never heard echoed through the building, causing things to vibrate. "What was that?" her mom said, her hands wrapped around the TV. "It's here, and it's coming for me." And just like that, the door was knocked down by the same sound. The creature jumped in, took Susan, and left. Boris chasing after them. It happened so fast, before anyone could even react. Her entire family was in shock. It took her parents a while to get themselves. "I'm going after Susan," her father finally spoke. "I'm coming with you," her mom said, still shaking. No. You have to stay with the kids, just in case whatever the hell that thing was comes back." "That won't be wise, sir." A woman in her early 30s with silver-colored hair and eyebrows walked in holding a gun and carrying a backpack. "Who are you?" her dad said. "Someone who knows what that thing is and how to stop it. That thing took our daughter and I am going after it." The woman blocked his path, trying to stop him from leaving. "Come on, sir. You don't know what that thing is. You going out there could make that thing hurt your daughter," the woman said with all eagerness to stop him from leaving. "I've been tracking that thing for 3 years now. There used to be 3 of them. I trapped 2 of them in a box, but this one managed to escape. One evening I was tracking it. I almost caught it when I saw your kids. I got distracted because I knew it would attack them in order to escape again. Then it attacked me instead, took the key and the box I was going to trap it in. It was about to kill me, but your dog intervened in time. Turns out they're scared of dogs. If that thing finds that key, it's going to release the others, and together they are more powerful. I almost died catching the other 2. My hair turned silver. I guess it took your daughter because she may have the key or know where it is." What key? Look, woman, I don't know what that thing is or what you're talking about, but the more I stay here, the more my daughter is in danger." "She's telling the truth, Dad," Toby said. "She's telling the truth because I saw it too." "Honey, what are you talking about?" her mom said as she lowered herself in front of him till they were at eye level. "I saw it that night Boris went missing. It kept on asking Susan for the key before Boris attacked it, and they both disappeared." Then Toby brought out the key from his pocket. "Here, I saw it on the floor the night you carried her. I wanted to give it to her before it took her. I'm sorry." "Listen, sir, I work with people who catch these kinds of creatures around the world. My name is CJ, so please, let me help you find your daughter." "Thank God you didn't give her that key, son. He still thinks she has the key, meaning your daughter is still alive." "Then how do we find it before it hurts my daughter?" "With this." The woman brought out a remote-like object from her pocket. "It will help in showing us its location. You're coming with me, sir. Your wife would have to watch over the kids. And please, I need that key." The slap that landed on Susan's face brought her back to consciousness. It was watching her. She tried to run, but it wrapped its tail around her legs and smashed her hard on the ground. "You have what I want. Where is the key so I can get this box opened and release my family?" "But I don't have it. I don't have any key." "Liar! If you won't tell me, how about I teach you a lesson you will never forget?" A scream tore from her lips as it dug its claws into her flesh before lashing its tail at her repeatedly. "Where is the key?" "I really don't know, I swear. I must have dropped it that night. Someone must have picked it up. Please, I don't know." "If you want to tell me where the key is, I may have to silence you forever." It wrapped its tail around her neck and lifted her up, her back against the tree, choking her slowly. Her senses began to fade as her vision blurred. She couldn't breathe as she closed her eyes, accepting her fate. Then suddenly there was a gunshot. The monster fell to the ground, its tail unwrapping around her neck as she fell also. She began to cough, gasping for air. It felt like her brain was about to explode. Finally, everywhere became clear again as her father tried to help her. CJ took out a powdered substance and sprayed it on the monster, causing it to turn into a pearl. She put it into the box and locked it in. They could hear Boris backing in the background. And that, my friends, is why I love to sleep with the lights on. See you next time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Good night.